Have you ever missed someone so deeply, but deep down, you know it's not really him you're missing? It's the version he showed you at the beginning, the one who seemed perfect, loving, and safe. What hurts isn't losing him, it's losing the dream he created. And today, I want to show you the truth that will finally set your heart free. It often starts with a rush that feels almost magical. The attention, the messages, the way he looked at you like you were the only woman in the world, it made you believe you had finally found something rare. Every word sounded genuine, every gesture seemed full of care. In those first weeks, it felt like all the loneliness you carried had finally found a safe place to rest. You told yourself, this must be real. That intensity can be so overwhelming that you stop questioning it. When someone shows up with so much charm and certainty, it's easy to trust what you see. You wanted to believe in his promises because they filled a space in you that had been empty for too long. And when you've lived craving connection, the warmth of attention feels like oxygen. You can't help but hold on tighter. For many women, this bond feels almost predestined, like fate stepping in at the perfect time. But beneath that spark, there's often something else at play. Women who've struggled with low self-worth or who carry the scars of anxious attachment are more likely to fall for the intensity. Because deep inside, there's a longing to finally be chosen without conditions. That hope makes you overlook the red flags. And if you grew up with wounds from childhood, this dynamic feels strangely familiar. The craving for validation, the hunger for someone to finally see you, it all ties back to those early years. That's why the beginning feels so intoxicating, like you've finally been rescued from your own past. But what seems like salvation at first can quickly turn into a trap. Because the truth is, you didn't just fall for him, you fell for the reflection of everything you wished to find in love. It wasn't about the reality of who he was, but about the picture he painted so carefully. And that's why the next stage always comes as a shock, when the mask begins to slip and the perfect story starts to crack. At first, the changes are so subtle you almost convince yourself they're not real. The calls slow down, the affection feels forced, and his words no longer match the energy he once gave you. You tell yourself he's just stressed, or maybe you're expecting too much. But deep down, you feel that shift, that quiet distance growing between you. Soon, the charm that once made you feel safe starts to fade into criticism or silence. You notice little comments that make you doubt yourself, moments where he twists the story and makes you question your own memory. That's how gaslighting creeps in, not all at once, but in small drops that leave you confused. Instead of feeling cherished, you begin to feel like you're walking on eggshells. And the confusion becomes overwhelming. You replay conversations in your mind, wondering if you said something wrong or pushed too hard. It feels like the man who once made you feel special has disappeared. And the hardest part? You can't figure out when it happened or why. The constant question that lingers is, was he always this way? Or did I do something to change him? That's the trap so many women fall into, turning the blame inward. You start believing if you just fix yourself, he'll come back as the man he once was. But the truth is, that version wasn't real to begin with. The tenderness, the intensity, the devotion, it was all part of a mask meant to capture your heart. And once he knew he had it, the act was no longer necessary. What hurts the most isn't just losing his attention, but realizing the security you thought you had was never there. You feel betrayed, not just by him, but by your own heart for believing. And it's in that moment of confusion and self-doubt that the deepest longing begins to grow, the longing not for who he really is, but for who he pretended to be. When you miss him, what you're actually missing is the dream he sold you. It's not the man who left you doubting yourself, it's the version he created to make you stay. That's why the ache feels so sharp, because you're grieving something that never truly existed. And that realization can be both painful and freeing at the same time. Your brain clings to those early memories like a highlight reel on repeat. The dopamine rush from his attention, the warmth of feeling wanted, the comfort of being seen, those chemicals don't fade easily. They tie you to the illusion, making you crave a return to that first high. But what you're chasing is a ghost, not a partner. It's so easy to confuse that craving with love. You tell yourself you miss him, but really, you miss how you felt when he gave you that version of himself. You long for the safety, the intensity, the validation he provided, even if it was temporary. The truth is, you're not drawn back to his real actions, but to the mask that once made you feel chosen. And that's where the illusion becomes dangerous. Because every time you think of him, you're not remembering the pain or the silence, you're replaying the fantasy. That selective memory keeps you stuck, hoping he'll show up as the man he never really was. It's like grieving a character in a story, not the reality of the relationship. The breakthrough comes when you finally see the difference. The him you long for is a role he played, not the man who hurt you. And once that clarity sinks in, everything begins to shift. But letting go of that dream isn't easy, especially when blame and shame start whispering in your ear, making you question if maybe you were the problem all along. It's almost automatic to turn the pain inward when someone pulls away. You wonder if you were too much, too emotional, or too needy. Every unanswered text feels like proof that you weren't enough. That voice in your head grows louder, convincing you that if only you had done things differently, he wouldn't have changed. But the truth is, his behavior had nothing to do with your worth. His manipulation fed on your empathy and your desire to love deeply. The qualities that made you question yourself are the same ones that made you give him chance after chance. That's not weakness, it's the natural response of someone who truly wanted to believe in love. Shame convinces you that you're broken, but shame lies. It tells you that you were too heavy to hold or too flawed to be kept. In reality, he never intended to love with the depth you were ready to give. His mask was designed to keep you hooked, not to build a future. Once you see that, the blame you carry begins to lose its power. Letting go of guilt doesn't mean the hurt disappears overnight. It means redirecting all that energy you've been using against yourself into something healing. It means recognizing that his failure to love deeply doesn't make you unworthy of real love. It means reminding yourself that you're not hard to love, he was incapable of showing up fully. And the more you release that shame, the lighter you feel. You start creating space inside for something new, not another illusion, but a path toward healing. And it's on that path where longing begins to shift into growth, where the pain of what you lost transforms into the hope of what you can finally build for yourself. Healing begins the moment you choose yourself over the illusion. It's in those small steps, like setting boundaries, saying no when you mean no, and reminding yourself daily that your worth doesn't depend on someone else's attention. Self-love isn't a cliché, it's the foundation that keeps you from falling for another mask disguised as love. One of the most powerful ways to rebuild is to connect with that younger version of you, the inner child who still craves safety and care. When you nurture her with kindness, you stop searching for others to fill that role. Inner child healing helps you rewrite the story, so you're no longer drawn to people who repeat old wounds. Building emotional intelligence is another key step. It means learning to pause when your heart wants to run back, to question if your longing is really for the person or for the feeling. Emotional maturity doesn't make you cold, it makes you stronger, able to see patterns clearly and walk away before they consume you again. Breaking free from codependency isn't about rejecting love, but about choosing healthy love. It's about replacing that old cycle of overgiving with a deep belief in your own self-worth. When you see yourself as enough, you no longer beg to be chosen, you choose yourself first, and that changes every relationship you enter. And slowly, the heartbreak transforms. It stops being a wound you carry and becomes a turning point. What once felt like an ending becomes the doorway to something you've never had before, a love that doesn't come from longing, but from wholeness. And that kind of love always begins with you. You don't miss him. You miss the story he told you. Real love isn't built on masks, it's built on truth, respect, and two whole people choosing each other. If this spoke to you, subscribe for more content on emotional healing and share in the comments. What truth hit you the hardest today?